from now, each is a demand. Following the wisdom of Plato, who told us that the unexamined life is not worth living, and also Jesus, who actually said the opposite, that the unlived life is not worth examining, I believe we can have a truly abundant life, an abundant spiritual life, by answering three demands. The first I mentioned was a radical individuality. This church, probably more than any institution in the country, has thrived on the insight that the individual is a miraculous thing, a marvel. Though we have 99% of the same genetics as everyone else in the room, more. We have 99% of the same genetics as a gorilla. Somehow, in that last little bit, we are so different from each other that we would never mistake one for another in the room. That we all have unique appearances and minds and lives. That's a startling thought. Eleanor Roosevelt, though, turned it in an interesting way by saying, remember that you are each unique, unrepeatable creatures, and also everyone else is too. That insight, that we are all somehow distinct and yet common in this distinctness, led me to the conclusion that we are each made because we have something unique to give to each other, to the world. Let me put it in a slogan. We are each needed to save the world. Not in aggregate, uniquely, individually, specifically. We each have something the world needs to be complete. And so you have a spiritual and moral duty to become the person that only you can ever be. Now, individuality is much more than this, and there are complexities and moralities and contradictions, but I want you to start here with this inalienable, non-delegatable duty to be you. Today, I want to add a complement to that radical individuality. It is a compliment because it is in tension with it. It is a phrase some of you have heard before, a radical hospitality. Tom Owentoll, who held this pulpit for a few months while I was preparing to arrive, introduced you to this notion. You've probably heard it elsewhere, too. It's not unique to me any more than anything else I say. I have no original ideas. Remember, there is nothing new under the sun. It's right there in the Bible. Just look it up. But Tom and others believe we need to open ourselves as individuals in new, wider ways to each other as a spiritual community. We have to begin to see each other as gifts, not just bystanders or by-sitters, as the case may be. I want you to think for a moment about the fact that most of the people in this room are people you don't know. And what a rich field of opportunity that is. Because all of them at some level have something you need. But let me back up just a moment. Why is this hospitality important as a complement to individuality? An obvious risk to individuality is what I would call individualism, the idea that individuals are the only things that matter, as though we were all scattered sand on a beach and it mattered not whether one blew this way or that way. True, I will admit, and this is part of the complexity, the pressure to conform to a norm, to agree with a group, especially on religious ideas, has to be resisted. Conformity is the breeding ground of human tyranny. You know it, and I do too. But what I'm trying to say this morning is that none of us are pure individuals. If you were, then you had no parents. If you were, then you managed to walk without any instruction, and we'll not talk about how to get to the bathroom. If you were here all by yourself, you discovered language from the beginning and no one ever said a word to you, you just discovered it. If you were a pure individual, you never met or needed anyone, and yet it's an absolute fact you could not be who you are today if others had not helped make you that person. So while you must do the work, you have always needed help. In other words, to become our unique, unprecedented, irreplaceable selves, you need everyone else to help you get there. This is the beloved community of which Tom Owen Toole spoke, but which term was coined by the American theologian Josiah Royce back in the 19th century. And the best way, I can think of two ways to describe it, and one of them is right here in this room. Actually, you see it better in the narthex, a mosaic. You know a mosaic is not a picture. It is actually hundreds, if not thousands, of pieces of tesserae, tiles, that you could see individually, and yet when you put them together well, it forms a larger image. So not a melting pot, not a tapestry, but a mosaic. But I want to suggest a more modern image, if I possibly can. I'm going to resort to one you may have seen. You may have seen these in magazines. Have you ever seen one of those pictures of whatever it was? The Statue of Liberty is the one I'm thinking of. But if you look really close, you see it's made up of thousands of other little pictures of people. That's the beloved community. The great picture made up of your picture, where it belongs in a whole but does not eliminate who you are uniquely. That's the beloved community. That is what radical hospitality leads to. Now, here's the wild and woolly part for today. If you're paying attention, this is the part I'm trying to fool with your heads a little bit. If we need others to become the person you and I uniquely can be, then everyone else here is a partner in that becoming. Everyone in this room has a unique gift to give everyone else in this room. Something to teach you, something you need. And you have something for everyone else. I have an example. For about 10 years in my youth, college, graduate school, thereabouts, I was a heavy smoker like my mother. A member of my first church saw me smoking one day. I didn't do it in front of God and everybody every day. And she said, "Funny, you don't look like a smoker." The fact that I remember that 20 years later tells you that it had an effect. And within a year, I had quit. That little comment, unbidden, unsought, unconsciously made by her, hit me in a place that allowed me to change. And I'm sure there's a point in your life where a chance remark, a happenstance, an accident of another human being turned your life in a new direction. I am positive it happened. And if you think about it, you know it is true. And Jesus said to the man by the pool, "Do you wish to be healed?" And he said, "Rise up and walk." That story is telling me, and I am telling you, that you present yourself in front of people who are disabled in some way every day, whether you see the disability or not. And a chance remark, "Do you wish to smoke?" can cause them to rise up and walk. I have spoken at Easter about rolling away the stone of the tomb that we frequently put in front of our lives. Well, sometimes it's someone else saying, "Hey, do you see that stone in front of your tomb over there?" They don't even know they're telling us. And there it is, that gift, that random gift of another human who has illuminated your life. A casual word, a chance encounter can make any moment a Christ-like moment when they give you healing and you receive it, or you give it to another and they receive it. And now, when you think I'm almost done, I'm going to kick it up another notch, like Mr. Legacy says. If everyone is needed for each of us to become ourselves, then none who are alive may be excluded from that process. The playwright and revolutionary Georg Büchner wrote, "One must love humanity in order to reach out into the unique essence of each individual,